Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My contacts are okay for the time being. It's March 29th, and we're here with business and social links to share with your friends.
As usual, we start with the collapse. We've got some juicy collapse this week. And one of the big ones, who had already collapsed a little bit, but is now collapsing even further.
Amazon cuts rise to 27,000 jobs cut, but it's still not enough to right-size the company, according to company folks. There's still a lot of turmoil coming from inside Amazon. People have been asked to try to find an open position, go to a different team, shut this down, shut that down, consolidation, shutting down a warehouse, renting out the warehouse space. Things do indeed look bleak.
And the thing about Amazon, that's a big umbrella because they had a lot of acquisitions when things were good. So if you're one of their acquisitions, you got to be a little worried.
Twitch says that it has laid off 400 employees.
It's a lot.
Yikes. And they had to because Amazon came along and they were like, yep, we're cutting and you're a part of it.
Engagement challenge. Does Twitch even still have basically like not a lot of competitors? Are there any emergent competitors for Twitch at this point?
Kick is a new one. I don't think it's like anybody's there yet, but they're trying. And they're trying to be more...
YouTube gaming.
They're trying to give a better cut of the revenue to the user.
I'm just looking at things like Cloudflare, but Cloudflare's R2, and they're hosting things like the cost of running a Twitch type service.
It's expensive.
I mean, but it's probably cheaper today than it has ever been.
It's a lot of headache though.
Yeah.
Probably a lot of headache.
You got all like the donations and the chargebacks and, you know, blah, blah,
Moderation. I wonder if a lot of these were moderators that they got rid of.
So what you're telling me is Cloudflare needs to add a commerce thing too, and then we're all set.
Oh, sorry. Continue.
But if they do that, then I guess the hot tub category is going to get a lot more spicy going forward.
Yeah, it's like you can just go to GitHub, get clone a repository, and then you're self-hosting your own hot tub thing on Cloudflare.
My favorite theory about all the Amazon cuts is that it's because they spent too much on Rings of Power. They did not make their money back.
I mean, $1 billion or $250 million would have run Twitch for God knows how many years, right?
Krista, you've got to do that. You've got to do the one-page infographic site. Like, how many employees
could they have kept employed if they had just not made this horrible thing?
Yeah, no, seriously. And you just keep scrolling, and it's like, let's look at it another way. It's just...
Then it just gets sadder and sadder and sadder.
Well, there might be a lot more people who need to go to the hot tub streams, or perhaps the hub, or the fan sites, because they are no longer going to be working at their warehouse job.
The Reuters headline is Walmart is laying off hundreds of U.S. workers at 5 e-commerce fulfillment centers. And I don't know what's going on inside Walmart. Is this... People are not buying from Walmart to fulfill like Amazon, but they are buying from Walmart for local pickup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walmart's got the Walmart Plus thing, but even then, I would think that it would be easier to go and get it.
That's what people are doing.
To get the free shipping.
So that's really what this is more restructuring than a firing in the context of like Amazon, because Walmart's e-commerce stuff never really took off to the extent that you would expect. People will just go to pick up at the local Walmart. What would have been better is if these people were involved in better store logistics, because I think our Walmart is probably classified as like not a great Walmart.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
Sometimes Walmart will have like, oh, I'm interested in buying this. Our local Walmart never has that.
They say that these people can try and transition to a local Walmart, and they're certainly everywhere, but there's no way that they would have enough room for everybody, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that they do. But I think that they recognize that this is a thing that would have been better fulfilled by the local Walmarts, and they don't want to lose that talent. You know, worst case scenario, it's like they're going to go work for Amazon. But fortunately, Amazon's getting rid of all those people too.
I bet what's going to happen is local Walmart will prioritize a good warehouse worker.
Yes.
And cut their crappiest meth head.
Yeah.
That might be good overall.
Maybe, though, we shouldn't have let all of these giant companies make monopolies in our communities so you can only shop at one or two places.
Well, they are feeling that in, was it Portland or Seattle, where they shut everything down?
Yeah.
And people are like, wait, there's no food.
Where am I supposed to shop? Well, I mean, hell, if, Walmart, or if, heaven forbid, if Dollar General went out in my community, there would be the gas station.
which is how it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We somehow survived. And a couple of more big layoffs this week.
Indeed lays off 2,200 people, or about 15% of staff, as job postings drop. You don't need that many people to have a website. You post, it's like, hey, I'm looking for people to work at this thing. You don't need a lot of people to do that.
But they got them. And one of the ones that had really held out for a long time, one of the big names, is now feeling the burn.
Disney job cuts to include 4,000 layoffs. Now, what was the deal with the 7,000 thing?
Yeah, I missed what departments are getting cut here.
Oh, so 4,000 is actual employees. 3,000 were job openings that they were currently taking applications for. Those just go away.
Okay.
So they're not actually cutting anybody for that 3,000, but those were going to be jobs. Also, they were very careful to point out, like, no, not the parks. We value our park employees. Disney Plus, you're out. You're done.
We're going to raise the rates on Disney Plus, but we're going to cut all the staff who actually make it work.
This one was surprising.
Well, I mean, if you give advice to tech companies, and the tech companies are all slowly dying, this makes sense, right?
Accenture to cut 19,000 jobs. They're a consultancy, and they're huge. They're probably the largest tech consultancy, and Microsoft uses the crap out of them. Microsoft, I think, considered buying them at one point, or has a stake in them or something. They have a lot of government contracts, and even they're not immune. Or they're also saying, things are going to be bad. Let's go ahead and cut jobs. Because some of these companies cutting the jobs doesn't make sense because they reported record revenue just a few months ago.
But I guarantee those government contracts are drying up because the government, first of all, is out of discretionary spending because of the debt ceiling. And second of all of that debt.
Yeah.
We have a high interest rate on a lot of debt right now. You know, the Fed, they bought up all those treasuries and mortgage-backed securities and everything, you know, all the bad stuff over the years. Well, those pay interest. And it's like, well, what do they do with that money? They're not allowed to keep it. They're not allowed to make money. So they give that back to the treasury. They are now deferring those payments because they are so underwater on all of those assets. They're losing like billions and billions of dollars every month. Great investment, guys. And we wonder, like, how did these companies amass all these extra employees? Every story, it's always the same thing. Why do you need X number of people to run Y? Why do you need this many people? It could be a very small team. You don't need these people. And we learned about the fake hiring. Apparently that goes deeper than we ever imagined.
Former Meta recruiter claims she got paid $190,000 a year to do quote unquote nothing amid the company's layoffs. We weren't expected to hire anybody for the first 6 months, maybe even the first year.
Now, this came from TikTok, so like take it maybe with a grain of salt. But if she did work for Meta and this was true, like what?
Yeah. And she describes how she was not expected to do anything or hire anybody. They were upfront with that. They're like, you're not going to hire anybody for 6 months or a year. And then she would get meeting requests. She'd be like, why am I going to meetings?
Yeah, she said like hundreds of meetings. Like they would go constantly.
And she would go to the meetings and everybody else in the meeting would be another new hire who wasn't allowed to hire anybody for a year. So they were all in a meeting to talk about hiring, but none of them could hire.
So it has to be some sort of tax write-off thing, right? Like, I don't understand why you would do this.
I don't know.
If you know something about tax law that we don't, please provide some illumination. Otherwise, I'm forced to believe that has to be made up because why would a company do that?
We had the story last week where they talked about the one whistleblower guy. I can't remember his name. He was Elon Musk's buddy. And he was like, yeah.
They all do this, but why?
They're hiring because it was like a social status thing, you know?
That's so weird
it's
to
like,
me.
My corporation is so big and powerful. We have X number of employees and we pay them this much money.
Couldn't you just lie about that? Like if you cared that much about your social standing instead of actually wasting the money?
Some of it was strategic though. It's like if those people are working for us, they're not working for Google.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But is this woman that valuable?
Yeah, she's not like a technical person. She's just like an HR person.
I mean, if the very best talent required convincing to go to work for Meta, it's like, well, you're going to be working for... He's like, you're going to be working on the Death Star, but what are the chances rebels are going to blow it up? I mean, come on.
Well, one Death Star that almost blew up and had to be rescued at the last moment was this one.
What happened at Credit Suisse and how did it reach this crisis point, according to Reuters? Oh boy.
So it's the same old story. They were already in trouble and people got a whiff of that and they were like, ooh, let's get out of that bank. Let's get away from there. Plus bad investments moving against them all of a sudden. And this bailout, a lot of people are upset about this bailout because once again, the people who took the risk pay nothing.
Yeah.
Oh.
All the risk is just moved on to the populace because they're too big to fail. Good job.
Although I think we've been making fun of Credit Suisse's investments for the better part of 3 or 4 years now.
Most of the world has. They've been doing very poorly because of it.
It's like, why would I think if you search our transcripts for like, why would Credit Suisse invest in this? The first mention of that was like 2019. It's been a long time coming.
And the crypto drama continues to play out. We get another chapter. One of the guys that was on the lam.
Kwon arrested in Montenegro, and according to the interior minister, and he had fake papers. So they were able to identify, wait a minute, you're that guy that's wanted internationally.
Your picture's on a ton of articles all over the internet.
Wasn't that where one of the Bond villain fled? I think
That's where you got the idea?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's, with that much money, you can get something very nice there.
Yeah.
A nice time. And you will need that amount of money, it seems, to enjoy your usual breakfast foods because they are being priced out of all of our pockets.
Dollar Tree can't afford to sell eggs anymore. Dollar Tree is a discount chain, if you're not familiar. And
it's more than just discount.
It used to be everything was $1. I don't think that's true anymore.
No, it's $1.25, but they have some special exceptions that are $3 and $5. But modern eggs, they couldn't even do $3 without losing money. Used to be $1 per dozen. Not that long ago.
Every day chickens look more appealing, but then I remember how much work and cleaning chickens take.
The pricing is coming back down to something normal, but it's still kind of nuts.
Yeah, but that's because we had been raising the interest rate. Do you think that we will continue to raise the interest rate after what just happened? I would love if they did.
They did, but they can't anymore.
Well, they did 25.
Yeah.
They should have done. They had sort of let everybody know without letting them know. It's like, yeah, it's going to be 50 every time. And now it's like, oh, maybe pull that back a little. Plus, don't forget that with the bailouts, which were actual bailouts, they'll tell you they're not, but they were. They added way more to the money supply than raising the rate could counteract.
That report comes out on Friday next week, doesn't it?
What report?
The money supply report.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm betting that it shouldn't. I'm betting that it's only going to show about a 5% increase.
I don't know if we count the Fed balance sheet against that.
I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to look at. Probably less than 5%.
Oh, here you go. Editor's choice tells you how much it was.
It adds $393 billion in 2 weeks.
But that's not what we're talking about right here. We've moved on to the war on crypto section because there were so many stories this week. It is clear that there was a concerted effort that as the banks fell, they were like, oh God, people are going to lose faith in the banks. And now there's an alternative. We must destroy confidence.
Quote unquote, crypto FUD. The industry is outraged as White House report slams crypto. White House had this report that just coincidentally was released during this time.
It wasn't supposed to be about crypto. It was just about the banking system in general. They took 15 pages to beat up on crypto.
To be fair, though, you can buy this article as an NFT, so also maybe not the most unbiased source.
I'm not saying crypto isn't a dumpster fire, but I'm saying that
it might be a preferable dumpster fire in some cases.
In comparison to the current banking system, it's not any more risky, really.
What about some tungsten coated gold bars? Or wait, no, gold coated tungsten bars.
What if I just started trading stuff on Facebook Marketplace?
You'd be arrested immediately. Yeah. And we can harken back to Barney Frank. Now, Barney Frank was on the board of Silvergate.
Of the Dodd-Frank family.
Yeah, and he, when this first happened, he was like, oh yeah, they came after us because of crypto. And people were like, you're insane, you're crazy. Elizabeth Warren had a warring narrative for it.
This is a Politico article, but the headline is Barney Frank blames crypto panic for his bank's collapse. Elizabeth Warren blames Trump.
course, it was Trump's fault.
They're kind of at each other's throat, and Elizabeth Warren's going kind of soft on crypto in general here. She's kind of the last holdout. What does she know?
Now, it is true that...
What does she hold?
It's true that Trump did deregulate banks hard during this time. And a lot of that stuff that we did during the banking crisis was just like, yeah, we don't need this anymore. And...
like the Dodd-Frank thing?
We find out when the FDIC, when the dust settled and the FDIC was like, yeah, here's what we're going to do to fix this, old Barney might have had something going there.
FDIC sells signature bank deposits to Flagstar, but the crypto was not included.
And you're saying, Ryan, that's right-wing propaganda. Well, maybe from the liberal horse's mouth, you'll accept it. This is the editorial board.
Barney Frank was right about signature bank.
It was all because what they did was they, all the bank's assets were given to the other bank, sold off and done with, but they were like, not the crypto. You won't be getting the crypto.
And yet.
And the other crypto-related enterprises have also gotten a little bit of a press this week.
Coinbase warned by the SEC of potential securities charges. This kicks off a little mini section about this, right? Because the SEC is coming hard after many token creators. The people that created Doge are probably on the hook here.
Well, this one's a little bit different. This is a Wells notice. What they're saying is you are creating securities. Like your staked stuff and some of the weird products that you offer based on crypto, you're creating securities, so you are violating the securities laws by not doing the proper regulation. The Coinbase CEO, I don't know how much we can trust him, but he was like, we're ready to do whatever you want, but you won't give us regulatory rules here. You won't tell us what we have to do. What you're talking about is the crackdown on crypto advertising, which was one hell
Also
of a
funny.
Wild West.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people probably thought they had gotten away with a fun little scam, but the SEC says no.
SEC charges Tron founder Justin Sun, celebrities Lindsay Lohan, Jake Paul, etc., with crypto violations. They haven't yet come after Larry David or Matt Damon.
Well,
The rapper Akon, though.
they point out that almost every one of these have already settled.
Yeah.
Like they didn't go, it's like, oh, yep, fine, here, just take the money back. I don't need it. And Larry David might have already arranged something. He's a wealthy man. And more going after people who do the kinds of things. What they claim is you're creating securities. In this case, it was a little bit, it was a little tricky what he was up to.
Tron founder Justin Sun sued by U.S. SEC on securities and market manipulation charges.
So they're accusing him of wash trading, and I'm not seeing the evidence, but they claim that basically people inside the organization were given slush money, and they were instructed to sit and just trade against each other all day long to create volume. But it was meaningless trading. It was all just trading at zero at the end of the day.
Fake it till you make it. It worked for Reddit karma. Why can't it work for cryptocurrency?
And this is a little bit older story, and we did already talk about this, but I just want to throw it in at the end here. It's like, what could be the reasoning behind all of this? What could they be setting up with this giant crackdown on crypto?
Yahoo Finance headline is Federal Reserve to launch instant payment service of FedNow in July. The addendum to that headline that I would add is central bank digital currency is coming in July.
Not quite yet.
It sounds like they're just kind of wanting to replace like Venmo or something.
August,
well,
maybe.
this is more like higher level payment to payment type of deal, like bank clearing and stuff like that.
Well, it mentioned too that it could be like consumer to consumer, like
Not
business
yet.
to business.
The way that it's written, though, it makes me think that it's just going to be a plug-in for banks that want to do that. So, like, if it's bank to bank,
Right.
sure. But if bank to bank wanted to offer a product to the people in that bank, it's trivial to bolt it onto this infrastructure.
And you get people used to it.
Right.
And you'll say, oh, look at the stability of this. Look how convenient
You
it
don't have
is.
to run to the ATM when you want to buy some garbage off Marketplace.
So, central bank digital currency. And then ultimately, it'll be like, oh my God, there's a crisis. How do we fix it? Oh, central bank digital currency. That'll keep us safe. And moving on to some hardware news. ARM is looking at the world around them and they're seeing all the inflation and they're like, yeah, we want a part of this.
ARM seeks price increases ahead of an IPO, an initial public offering. As we know, Nvidia was going to acquire them. That fell through. A lot of people screamed bloody murder, blah, blah, blah. ARM's in a tough spot with the SoftBank investment and everything else. It looks like ARM is going to charge customers that are using ARM inexpensively a lot more money, but they're also going to charge customers that are doing a lot of intellectual property development with ARM a lot less. So maybe the people that are moving an insane amount of ARM volume are going to pay significantly more for ARM designs as a result of this. But if you have somebody that's investing a ton in ARM, but not actually producing a lot of product yet, that will cost less. I'm not sure what their goal is here other than, I mean, they want a lot more money, but I think that's ultimately just going to drive adoption of not ARM.
Well, so the rule is, or the rule that they want, and I can't imagine Apple not trying to crush this. Right now, you pay based on the chip you want. When this happens, you will pay based on the final price of the device that the chip goes into.
Yeah.
Oh.
So instead of
Apple sweating right now.
Yeah, like think about one of those $3,000 headsets. Now you're paying a percentage of $3,000 for all of your ARM chips.
Ooh, that's going to raise the price even more. It's just going to become recursive after a little bit.
ARM's noticing that some of their products, or some of ARM's products, are in products that have insanely high margins. GPUs and Apple CPUs.
And those products don't work without it.
Right.
Right.
So
unless RISC-V really ramps up,
yeah,
they've probably got they got a window. I don't know how big of a window it is, but they got a window. They'll probably get away with this. And AI, you want the hottest AI, but a lot of people trying to run it at home might be running into some hardware limitations. Maybe take most of the night to generate one image. What can you do? Well, you can go to the cloud if you got deep pockets.
A lot of really interesting, cool stuff that happened with GDC and the events before it. Nvidia DGX Cloud was unveiled. The Verge has got the scoop. Train your own ChatGPT in a web browser for $37K a month.
That costs more than my education. Very affordable.
You will get, we talked about how Microsoft did that supercomputer to train, and like they did all those Nvidia GPUs. They figured out how to do all that. They're saying in this article, you might be using those literal same GPUs because they're recycling all those into this program. And Intel graphics, the discrete graphics arm of Intel, they never really set the world on fire. They released a couple of products.
They haven't let up, but they've still got a little bit of a ways to go.
Well, they've suffered a setback.
Intel graphics chief Raja Koduri leaves after 5 years battling Nvidia and AMD. Intel's Arc GPUs have yet to truly impress, but perhaps they still might, according to The Verge. I'm actually pretty impressed by them for the $300-ish GPU price point. They're not bad at this point. We got some rough edges, some sharp edges. You might cut yourself. I wouldn't run with them, if you know what I mean. But they're not bad.
Where is Raja going? Well, of course, he's doing an AI startup, like every other human being on the planet is right now.
Moving into media.
I've been so close to the GPU compute metal for all this AI stuff. I have to do this. It's a compulsion. We get it.
And we've seen foldable phones. We've been scrollable phones, big phones, all sorts of gimmicky phones. But what if you just want one that's small and discreet?
Please.
Pebble might be coming back as a small Android phone. It'll be like the iPhone mini, but Android.
It seems like it's still very early days. Like they had a bunch of prototypes in here and they're like, we're not sure which one we're actually going to go with.
Well, it might be modular. They were talking about,
well,
you could get whatever camera you want.
There was also a caption in there that said that they were thinking about moving away from modularity because it was too expensive.
Yeah.
Thing about it is, because they will be doing small batches, this will not cost any less
artisanal
than a regular phone.
Artisanal batches.
Artisanal phone.
Yeah.
I want the arm phone, the armband. Where it's like,
I like the idea of a smaller phone just because I have small hands. Like the phones have been getting so big, I can't operate them one-handed anymore.
That's why you're gonna get the little thing you stick on the back of it so you can hold.
Yeah, the pop socket. That's why those are so popular among women because their hands are small.
I wonder if you could come up with some sort of a mechanism where it was bolted to the back of your hand, but you could do like this kind of a number.
Oh. And
the phone would flip around to the front of your hand, and then you let go, and it goes to the back of your hand.
You put a track into your flesh?
No, it would just like flip around like a retractable thing.
Ooh.
People would be attacking each other with that.
What are you going to do?
They can't all be winners.
You're really industrial scale one, you could like use it as a grappling hook.
Ooh.
I'm scaling the building for myself. I mean, I'm all about the multi-tool. That'd be fine.
Well, Hyundai, they've done some bad things in their car designs. They've got some bad press.
This feels
recently.
like the PR article.
Yeah.
They needed a win
100%.
here, and I agree with them. I think this is the right move. I'm glad they're doing it.
Hyundai promises to keep buttons in cars because touchscreen controls are dangerous. But you know what's even more dangerous? The software stack that are running the touchscreen controls.
I don't want tech, like this kind of tech in my car. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a screen. I don't want AI. I just want to be able to get my car from point A to point B. That's all I want.
I would even say let's give up some of the tiny performance gains we've gotten and roll back to easier to repair, longer lasting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to buy a new car ever, really, but
certainly not right now.
yeah.
I knew somebody that claimed to modify their Tesla because they enabled the fast charging because they had like a wrecked Tesla or something, and it didn't have fast charging, and so they enabled fast charging themselves by just rooting their Linux thing in a Tesla, and they claim that they set it up so that there would be a ding in the in-car audio, and it would email them whenever somebody would log in to the thing remotely, because Tesla can still log in and turn it off. And so it's like, oh, Tesla.
Was it constantly dinging?
Yeah, not constantly, but it was just like, oh, Tesla logged into my car remotely and turned off the fast charging. Let me just go turn it back on.
Well, the line between vehicles and computers is certainly blurring. We're getting more and more, for better or for worse. But maybe some vehicles that you never considered to be part of this are now getting in, and companies that you didn't think made this kind of thing are starting to.
Acer, yes, the computer company, is building a fancy electric bike with built-in AI.
Reading the feature list of this, I was like, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea.
The AI is for like the smart battery charging, and also
It'll auto brake.
tracking you
Yeah.
24/7. That's a big part of it. It does have a cool feature though. You can pop the battery out and use it to charge other things. It has USB.
That's nice.
So
Sorry, continue.
Well, you could bike to your presentation, take it to power your laptop, and then bike back home.
Yeah. The comments were dunking on this though. They were all like, this is the ugliest bike I've ever seen.
You think so?
I mean, it's not gorgeous, but it's a bike. Again, it's one of the, I just want utility. I want it to go from A to B. I don't really care what it looks like as long as it functions well.
The design made me think that it would fold easily for carrying, but it didn't seem like it did that.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's like 30 pounds too, I think.
This whole thing is just a cover for the battery. So, I don't know. I don't know what's cool in bikes. Seems like the tires are really small.
If it folded and it made it easier to carry, like on a subway or something, yeah, it might be fine.
That would make it easier to steal. Oh, the other thing it does is it locks the wheels with the security system through the
it's like stuff. Only if you're close will it unlock. And I was like, again, that just seems like
somebody will just pick it up and carry it.
Yeah, just a lot of features that maybe aren't great, but maybe they'll be okay.
Well, how long ago was it when we had the big scandal with the hard drives where they changed the controller?
Almost 2 years.
What?
And so we've had a long time to see like what effect has that actually had on, mechanical hard drives. Have they actually gotten worse? Was that overblown? We now have some people who are showing us some data.
Hard drive average lifespan misses the 3-year mark in the study of 2007 devices. This has been updated though. It's initially this article took a few things about data size a little out of context, but basically, hey, are hard drives getting more or less reliable? And they're getting kind of less reliable over time.
Western Digital and Seagate did very poorly. Very poorly.
Well, the correction was they're also the largest number of drives in the sample. And so it's kind of like...
But the sample was all broken drives.
Yeah, but like Maxter's not even a drive that's made anymore.
The point is, if you're buying modern hard drive, what was for sure though is that the failure rate was much better before 3 years ago.
Yeah, like the 8 terabyte capacity was the sweet spot. Like the 16, 18, 20 terabyte capacities don't look like they're going to shape up to be quite as good.
So be careful with your mechanical hard drives.
Man was never meant to store that much data.
It is really crazy. There's 20 trillion bytes of information in a tiny little thing like this. I mean, it's a Rube Goldberg machine that stores information, a spinning platter at 7,200 RPMs with a magnetic ceramic head that uses a laser to heat the thing to store magnetic flux. I mean, that's crazy.
Again, so far down the tech tree to even get to that state.
And look at what we've done with it. We've only made society worse with it.
Each one needs like 200 blue science just to make it.
Well, if you have a lot of blue science stored up and you want to, get a board that you can prototype things with and learn about, and you don't want to be part of the strong arming, maybe you want to go for this.
ASUS unveils the Tinker 5 as their first RISC-V board. Yay! I really do think RISC-V is going to take over the universe. It's just a question of when, not if.
It's basically a Raspberry Pi, but ASUS's version of it, and this is the first time they've ever done one that's not ARM or x86.
It's not there in terms of performance, but it is there in terms of RISC-V.
And this is a little bit on the edge in terms of a tech story, but at this point, like we say, the line between the computer and the car, and they have already announced, we want ChatGPT in our cars. And it's like, what? Why?
To talk you out of using it.
What would that do for anything? But the good news is they are losing a ton of money on these stupid new cars.
Ford says EV unit, its business EV unit, is losing billions and billions of dollars. It should be seen as a startup.
So reading between the lines there, the reason they're wanting to include ChatGPT is because they're trying to get that sweet startup money.
Some of the quotes here, it just almost seems like half-baked. Like Ford doesn't even know what they want to think about this. They almost... It seems like this whole article, this whole quote thing was started from some lizard person inside of Ford saying, we could have got this as a tax write-off if we just invested in a startup company that does EV.
Well, it's like the bad bank.
Yeah.
Right. Let's take our worst thing and move it over here, and then we can pretend that it's losing a ton of money, even though we're actually making money. So the gasoline engine, regular cars, the EV, and then the commercial fleets are all going to be broken up into 3 different entities. And the EV unit is going to be the black sheep of those.
Whatever happened to those? One of the things that Ford was working on that I thought looked promising as a transitionary technology was those really, really, really small internal combustion engines that they didn't have a ton of torque, but for city driving and stuff like that, it seemed like they were going to be fine. They were insanely fuel efficient, and they were tiny. And you could build an engine around that because it could switch like 20 gears really quickly because it had the electromagnetic transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened with that? Was that not viable? Was that just smoke and mirrors?
And moving on to the security section, here's a security article that you really, really want to pay attention to. Now, most likely nobody's going to target you with this, but maybe if you're a journalist or security researcher or something like that, it could be very worrying.
Journalist plugs in unknown USB flash drive mailed to him, and it exploded in his face. Now, he's got some minor injuries to his hand and arm. No one else was hurt. It didn't really seem to detonate as intended. There were some other devices mailed. No one else was hurt, but good Lord.
RDX and an ignition thing. Now, the other person who got one of these that did plug it in but survived, the reason they did it is because instead of plugging it straight into the board, they plugged it into an extension cable. It might be the first iteration ever of an Amazon Basics cable being so crappy it saved a life. It couldn't deliver the voltage.
I think wasn't this the one too where he was like he tried plugging it in multiple times before it finally exploded?
I don't remember reading that part, but there were several of them mailed around. It's got something to do with the things that they've got going on in Ecuador. Oh, that's the radio station people too.
Yeah.
Huh.
The people that fled Ecuador, the Ecuadorian Bitcoin thing.
Well, moving on to, that was not security. That was the last hardware one.
Mm-hmm.
No. So, because now we're going into software, and I don't know. I don't know where they're finding the team for this since they just fired everybody.
Sure seems like Amazon is making a new web browser. ...
If Amazon web browser is anything like the Amazon shopping experience,
or the Kindles, because the Kindles used to be awesome, and then they've just they could have done them so much better.
Well, I guess Amazon pioneered like the user experience in terms of shopping online, but since they have done that, they've just rested on their laurels. I don't know that I would trust them to do this a second time.
Like Google with search.
Yeah.
The more that GPT-4 advances, and not just GPT-4, but the AI stuff. I mean, Sundar Pichai, I don't know. All of these companies have to realize that there is an existential threat here for all of the stuff they've got going on for business.
So we don't know for sure they're doing this, but they did have a user survey, and the user survey asked a lot of questions about this kind of thing. Some people are kind of speculating that one of the things here could be that they're trying to get ahead of Apple cutting off the advertising IDs. Because if they run their own browser, imagine how much easier it will be to spy on your habits and stuff.
If they run their own browser and lean on the EU to let you install your own software on an iPhone, that makes sense. Remember we covered that in the EU thing, and I was like, it doesn't make sense why Amazon is supporting the whole right to install your own software on the iPhone.
Oh, turns out it was for bad reasons all along.
And Microsoft, it's funny because Microsoft is basically like, hey man, we're working hard to fix that thing that you don't like. But
not really.
We remember when it wasn't like, we remember when you broke it. Like before that we had control, and then you took that away and you made it difficult. So why don't you just go back to what you had before? It seems like you wouldn't have to work at that. You could literally, you've already done it once. Why not just do that? And they're like, no, we have to work hard at this.
Microsoft wants changing default apps in Windows to be less of a pain. Do they though? Do they?
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
It's so easy to do.
I mean, about 1 out of every 30 times that I launch Firefox, it's like, I've got Edge. Edge is right here.
Yeah. And Outlook always opening in Bing just infuriates me because I always forget.
Yeah.
Because I rarely click on links in Outlook, but sometimes you have to.
It looks enough like not Edge now that it's like, oh, this is fine. And then it's like, wait a minute, something is weirdly wrong here.
Wait a minute, you're asking me to log in. I'm already logged in. Oh, it's Bing.
Actually, I'll confess that Bing on Linux is not a terrible experience. Somehow.
I'm just not ready for the transition. Maybe it is better. Maybe, but I've been hurt. I'm not ready.
Emotionally.
I too have been hurt. Sometimes there are choices that the GNOME team or the KDE team make, and it's just like, guys, I don't want to switch desktop environments again.
Well, Microsoft, you mentioned that Amazon would have to romance the EU a little bit to get those App Store rules. Microsoft is betting on not only App Store, but also the Activision Blizzard merger. They have two major hurdles before this will ever happen, but they're already banking on it. They are betting hard.
Microsoft's new Xbox mobile gaming store may launch in 2024. Yeah, the roadmap here seems pretty clear. Microsoft wants you to have an account, and they're going to tie your Windows account and your mobile account and your device account just the same way that Apple does, but they're also going to do it through gaming. And through your console or whatever, you can game on your no GPU Windows laptop via a console or via the cloud. But Microsoft wants to make all of that transparent to you. Also, your Microsoft Office software, again, transparent to you as long as you're giving the money.
But the library for that doesn't exist except with Activision. And right now, Apple and Google are never going to let that happen. No. So maybe they know something that everybody else doesn't.
Look at how much money Microsoft is paying. Like all the free games, that's like the Xbox Game Pass thing is like, it's a legit crazy deal. Microsoft has to be losing money on that.
I think they admitted that, didn't they? Was it them or?
They've really slowed down with the updates though. Like for a while there, Xbox Game Pass, I would be like, let me put this game on my wish list. And a week later, it's like, here you go. Just go have it. Now it's really slowed down. And this says today, but it's actually March 20th is when this happened. I did not have time to look at an update. Did you?
I don't know what the result is.
Oh, yeah, I don't either.
But
sorry.
This has to do with...
It may not be out yet.
So during the pandemic, because nobody could go physically to a library, they're like, all right, we're going to have a new system of borrowing where it's all digital lending, but we're going to have the like physical books. It's 1-to-1. No one could borrow the digital unless we physically have the book on hand, like in our physical possession. And Amazon and the rest of the publishing industry, they went crazy.
The Internet Archive is defending its digital library in court today. The only thing that gave me pause with this, the Internet Archive is a library, period, point, paragraph. It is. This should be allowed. This kind of thing should be allowed. If you have a physical dead tree book and you can control the digital distribution of it, even though the digital copy doesn't wear the same way a book does, that is a dumb argument for a lot of reasons. We're all not idiots. That should be okay. The library should be able to scan, because like if a page gets torn, I've totally checked out a book from the library with a page that had been replaced with a page that had been photocopied, probably because the page was damaged and it was like laminated and taped in there. But they repaired the book. You could repair a book that is damaged or whatever. That's fine. It's completely fine. I don't think the Internet Archive did anything wrong. I think the publishing companies are looking for overreach, but in the grander scheme of things, I don't think that libraries would exist today if they hadn't existed for the last 200 plus years.
Oh my God. The publishing companies are dying to kill the library.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, here's the crazy part about this. If they lose in the worst possible way, if the publishing companies get what they claim is the way it works, they will be fined for every instance that they did that. That will bankrupt them. And that means that archive.org could go away.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Simon & Schuster could stab at the heart of archive.org.
The internet, but what, even if the Internet Archive wins, this is still going to have a really pronounced chilling effect, which makes me think that we collectively, if you're watching this program, should grab our torches and pitchforks and codify that this kind of thing is okay. Because it's going to have a chilling effect without that, regardless.
I wouldn't say that if I were you.
They're going to come after us. They'll find a reason.
Yeah, I mean, considering the recent past of when there's like anybody who says something to stir up the people is not allowed, could easily apply that to
It's just so disturbing.
Demonetized.
The one thing that gave me pause about the Internet Archive thing is there was a few authors came out not in defense of the Internet Archive, and I was kind of surprised by that. And I sort of tried to see it from their perspective, and it was difficult.
It's the art, not the artist. You have to cling to that. My God. Stephen King, the art, not the artist.
I prefer to think of cocaine-fueled Stephen King as a different person than tweeting Stephen King. Thank you very much.
He died to me the day he put down the coke. Well, speaking of addictive substances, man, I'm sure that we'll be a part of this because when it comes to FPS, like fast twitch gaming, we're the best. No one can compete.
Valve announces Counter-Strike 2, a free replacement for CSGO.
I watched a little bit of stream of this.
What'd you think about it?
It looked... So the thing they were playing on Dust 2, and it's all much more colorful and like clean and stuff, kind of, a graphical update. And I was like, this could just be Temple of Anubis in Overwatch if they had some flying cars in the background.
And magic powers.
They, Blizzard actually sold Overwatch 1 to Valve.
I was trying to find some good. I can't wait to try this. I'm gonna try it. I'll have a new benchmark for the next 10 years, if nothing else. But in looking at that, I went down a rabbit hole. There is actually a geriatric gaming league.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Yeah, they had the picture of them. They called them the Silver
Snipers.
Silver Snipers. Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Go team. I hope that's not my future, or maybe I've got something to look forward to. I don't know.
That's not a bad thing. There's another thing I really liked in the CSGO. I don't know if you guys watched it. So now you can throw a smoke, but you can clear it with other grenades. Like it'll dissipate into. It's really cool. Yeah,
it is cool. I like that they did stuff like that, but they didn't change the core gameplay. They're like, this is the most popular game in the world. Let's not screw with it too much.
Yeah.
Let's just make the little things a little bit better.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see. I never really got into CSGO or anything like that, so I'm sure people will have stronger opinions about how the shooting might be a little bit different, but it seemed, based on the streamers I watched, they said it was pretty similar.
Oh, and it also has the less than 1 tick updates. So if you are operating on that level where you think that you're reacting faster than a tick, this game will actually respect that now.
I don't think that affects anyone at this table.
I don't know.
The wisdom of Gabe prevails once again.
If you've learned a haste spell.
The aforementioned cocaine?
Well, Wendell, I thought about you, obviously, when I looked at this, because I know that you are constantly trying to learn about music.
I was at one time. I don't know that I care anymore.
I've thought about trying, because I want to learn Spanish. I've thought about trying this, but I've heard mixed messages about like, yeah, you'll memorize some vocabulary, but it's not really that useful. I don't know. But this is a cool thing to apply to, or to try to, I guess.
Duolingo is working on a music app. I'll teach you to be able to understand music, I guess.
You think you could ever develop a rhythm if an app was going to teach you?
No. Whatever it was, somebody messaged me. Was it the Twitch stream? There was something happening in Twitch that required rhythm, and I was on
It was a rhythm game, maybe.
No, it was something recent, and I was trying to do something along with it in the rhythm of that, and somebody realized what I was doing as they were watching, and they messaged me. They're like, "Dude, I've never laughed so hard as I was laughing at you trying to understand that."
That's why we need you to play Rhythm Doctor.
But you weren't bad when we did the VR game, Beat Saber.
It was pretty bad.
You weren't terrible.
I wouldn't think that you were on the level that you claim. None of us were great at it.
No.
Well, you know, when you buy things from modern software companies, we all know that you are buying a license. You are not buying a product. It doesn't belong to you. You're not allowed to do what you want with it, and you don't get to keep it forever. But maybe the number one offender there is old Nintendo.
The 3D and Wii U eShop shutdown leaves archivists in the wild, but don't worry, hobbyists have picked up the pieces. Now, under US law, this is probably not legal, but the Wii U and older consoles, because they have flash-based memory, they're also starting to die. And so it's like, how do we preserve this? How do we carry this forward? And it turns out it's pretty trivial to just crack it open, the software, and preserve it other ways.
This is one more iteration where you were sold Super Mario Brothers and it was taken from you again. It's got to be in the teens at this point, right?
Yeah. Does it ever enter a point where when you get something that is a physical token that represents, it's like, I have Super Mario World, you have to keep the original Super Nintendo cartridge as proof that it's like, no, I have a license for this content, sir.
NFTs.
I don't think they care.
Those are real, technically non-fungible tokens, just IRL.
Mm. Well, you know, we were talking about the Microsoft and their mobile gaming aspirations earlier. It turns out Netflix has already been doing it, and I keep forgetting, because who thinks of Netflix?
I don't know anybody who plays any games on Netflix.
And this is only on mobile, right? The website itself does not let you even explore this, so nobody knows this exists.
Netflix plans to release 40 more games this year and will add Monument Valley in 2024.
I don't know what Monument Valley is. Is that a hyped game, or?
I'm not familiar.
I want to see the sweatshop where these are cranked out.
Well, I think
most probably of them don't actually want to see that.
I think most of them already existed somewhere else, right? And they just sort of co-opted them.
Bought them, yeah.
We got the rights to Flappy Bird. Our troubles are over, guys.
So this is not a news story. This is Hindenburg research, but
this is the worst formatted story of the week. Just
well,
FYI.
they're looking for like bullet points to sort of like.
But there's like 100 of them, in which case you defeat the purpose of the bullet point.
I will confess that I got frustrated trying to understand this story about 3 bullet points in, and just was like, all right, I give up.
Well, so here's what it comes down to. Block, Dorsey's company, they have pretty good numbers, it seems, but this Hindenburg research actually had people like, they interviewed people who'd left the company, they sent people in to try to infiltrate them, and they came up with a lot of bad stuff.
How inflated user metrics and frictionless quote-unquote fraud facilitation enabled insiders to cash out over $1 billion US.
So basically this is Cash App, right? I think it's Cash App.
I thought it was Square.
I thought this had something to do with like how Dorsey was doing the advertising and user metrics.
No. Well, probably I didn't read all the bullet points either. I'll admit.
Listen, look at like this. We shouldn't have included this because it's such a bad source.
What's going? Well, we want to know what's going on with Dorsey's thing, because the whole Twitter replacement. It's like, what's up with that? There's something weird going on there.
So the biggest complaint, and probably the biggest smoking gun here, was that when they started looking into internals and when they started interviewing people that had just come out of Cash App that had been developing it, they were like, yeah, we cater to criminals. Our whole business model is criminals. Also, there's a couple of rappers, one of them who wrote a song named Cash App, in which he rapped about paying a hitman to kill somebody via Cash App. He was later arrested for hiring a hitman to kill somebody.
Listen, that was just a big misunderstanding. All he needed was some free extras for his music video, a la Afro Man.
So they talk about how whenever a ban would come down, it would be like, don't ban the user, ban the account. And they're like, yeah, but it looks like this person has like 50 accounts and they're all involved with crime. No, don't ban the user. Just ban that account. And then that, like they would just go to a new account and, rinse and
like
repeat.
the cheaters in every free online video game.
All the greatest industries in our daily lives have criminal history roots.
Well, this is not so much roots as the entire tree. According to Hindenburg, they're a short-selling research company. So they probably do have a considerable position against Square right now on the stock market.
Well, whatever they do, they need to hire some better writers.
Well, if they're going to be stock investors, you got to be a meme investor, right? Get on that AMC bandwagon. And even AMC benefited from this news.
Movie theater stock pops after a report says Apple plans to spend $1 billion a year on releases.
Not just Apple either. There was a couple other production companies who were like, "Yeah, we'll release in theaters."
I think
Apple and I think Amazon.
Yeah, I mean, it would basically cost, because the projectors are digital. What would it cost Amazon to let their content run on idle theater screens for a cut of the revenue if people show up? It's only in their interest to do that.
Well, it could cut Prime subscriptions if you're making me wait and I decide to go see it in a theater and then I'm like, well, I don't need my Prime subscription. I've seen all these movies.
What if you just want to see it in the theater because of reasons? And it's not, there's no timed release aspect of it. Like if
I don't think that would fail.
Think about like Twitch Watch Party though. It's like, if you're going to let random streamers that are all Twitch Prime subscribers do stuff, why don't you just do it in a theater? What's the difference?
We'll see how that plays out. I don't see it working out for them. But I hate movie theaters. So.
Yeah, we're maybe not the target audience for that.
And Microsoft is still fighting the Activision stuff. They still are just like, please, we'll do anything to get it. Now, they had been sued not by the government, but by the gamers themselves. That's what this one's about.
Microsoft wins a dismissal of gamers' lawsuit over its $69 billion Activision deal. This is from Reuters. The individual gamers sued and said, you're going to ruin the studio the way that you have the other things. See also all the crap.
Well, they said because it'll make a monopoly. And then the judge was like, how?
Yeah, show me damages.
Yeah.
Show me exactly. You didn't flesh anything out here. Now, he has given them a time limit to go and revise that. Come back.
Which, I guess, if you followed any of that kind of development stuff, it's probably like, what do you mean how? Look at literally every example. But
in court,
you have to.
They want you to itemize. They really want you to break it down. That makes sense. And just a tiny, just two nuggets of social media. First off, we have more of the war on TikTok.
BBC advises staff to delete TikTok from their work phones. They're not requiring it. They're just saying, you really should, because the CCP probably interested in you, because guess what? You're staff of the BBC.
Yeah, I guess a couple of years ago, too, they were like really pushing for their staff to get on TikTok because that's where all the stories are. And now it's like, oh, wait.
But hilariously, BBC will keep its TikTok account.
Yeah. Well, they had to engage with the youth.
The other thing about the BBC is they've had a history of being attacked by the Israeli spywares, too. So they're saying like, hey, guys, come on. You're on the list. Just don't take any extra chances here. But how else are you going to see the hot new videos?
I wish you could get a cellular modem that was completely isolated from everything else and you could just have your own personal Wi-Fi network. That'd be cool.
How would anybody make money off that?
Yeah, that's a problem.
And finally, Elon Musk is... the Twitter hype is kind of gone now. I feel like nobody's that interested in it anymore. We got all these new crises to worry about. But he is still trying to knock out all of the promises he made before he did this.
Elon Musk says Twitter will open source its recommendation code on March 31st. April Fools.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. I was like, this is just he's not gonna do it and then be like, oh, it was just trolling the whole time.
That's gonna tank the stock price if he does that.
But would that surprise you even a little bit?
A little bit, but not much.
Not much, yeah.
But it will be nice to see. Now, I would like to see not just the recommendation code, but the historical recommendation code. Or maybe he's saying he hasn't changed it at all.
Well, he's saying the recommendation code is a huge mess, but they're going to clean it up a bunch and then release it. So I don't think you're getting what it was.
Yeah.
I think you're getting what it's going to be, which is supposedly going to be more fair.
People will pick that apart so fast. This is a dumb decision.
It is dumb. Yeah, there's no universe where you win in this situation.
I think there's a lot of people that have a monetary incentive to game that algorithm, and it is absolutely going to be very bad the first couple of weeks, 3 weeks, something like that.
It's already bad.
Yeah.
Twitter's awful. So I don't know. Maybe he'll be able to clean it up, but I kind of doubt it.
It doesn't seem likely.
What we get out of that? Like 50 minutes?
Not
55?
Yeah, we went on a long time. Long time.
You're welcome.
We'll see you Friday with lots of nonsense.
Yep.